Ben Starkey, and I play Karl in Big Fish.
All right, so you were thrown into the role pretty last minute. You took it over a day before rehearsal started. How has your process been in trying to learn the lines and working with that and your backstory, and has it been difficult to catch up with that?
I mean, as far as like catching up with everything, it wasn't too difficult because Karl in a musical, since Karl's kind of on stilts and dancing is kind of hard to do, a lot of the time it's just he kind of enters, says a few lines, and kind of exits. So connecting with that part of it wasn't too hard because there's not a ton of lines, but connecting with the almost speed of his like changes in views on things. Like at first he's like, I don't want to go outside of my cave, and then within a couple of lines he's completely fine with that. So kind of connecting to those character choices that are written in the script was a bit more difficult and would have been nice had I had more time with it.
Yeah. So it was hard for you to motivate would you say he was gullible, or how far would you go with that?
The thing is that the script doesn't really point to him being a gullible kind of guy. He's very well thought. He thinks through things, and he's very intelligent, and so it's just this, it almost has to be that I have to be so taken in by the charisma that Edward has, and that the character is given, that it's just, I'm so encaptured and taken in by him that I follow him.
All right. During the show you have to use stilts since you're the giant. Have you ever had any experience on walking on stilts, or how did you learn to do that?
Well, I had like very, very brief experience with it. Kind of, you know, there's always when you're kids, everybody kind of has this experience, I think, where they get like coffee tins and whatever and tie them to their feet and walk around on those. And then after that, when I was in Boy Scouts for a while, we had this big, basically a bunch of troops got together and they all taught different things there. And one of the places that they had was kind of a stilt walking thing. Of course, the stilts were about this high and they were the wooden ones that you hold onto with your hands. And so there was a really big jump from going from maybe being this high off the ground to being about like 2 feet off the ground. And I was actually surprised at how quickly I got used to it. It was kind of, I spent a good like 2 hours the first day walking around on them, very, very unsteady. The second day, I was starting to be able to walk around, and then by the end of the week, I was perfectly comfortable walking in them. And so, really the only issue that I run into now is just that they have to be really tight on my legs, and it gets really uncomfortable having to stand in them for long periods of time. So, you feel almost like you're kind of paralyzed, because it's like, I can walk around, but it's like I have shin splits. So it gets a little painful sometimes.
Yeah. All right. You mentioned Edward earlier and your unique relationship with him. How do you, as the actor playing Karl, view the relationship in the musical?
Well, I almost kind of view it in kind of a teacher-student view. Except it's like, Karl is probably the more intelligent one, but he's still learning something from Edward. And you see it a lot in Asian culture, like martial arts during about the 1800s, 1900s area, that the martial arts teachers were constantly followed by their students everywhere, and they would just give them bits of wisdom and everything. And Edward, despite not being very knowledgeable, has a lot of wisdom, just a ton of wisdom. And it's kind of this guy, Karl, who has not had very much experience with the world, is just following Edward around, experiencing the world with him. And it's this kind of, he's there for me and I'm there for him, and so it's this kind of mutual relationship between the two of them.
You mentioned Karl's intelligence quite a bit. Interestingly enough, in the movie, when he goes to the Callaway Circus and is asked to work for Amos, Amos asks him if he knows these specific contracts, and Karl says no, whereas in the musical, he goes into this whole, yeah, it's this and this, and pretty much saying that you can't trick him into working without getting pay. So that's the two differences, or a big difference between the movie and the musical. Why, in your opinion, do you think they chose to make that difference, making Karl seem more intelligent in the musical?
Yeah, I think a bit of it has to do with screen time versus stage time. because with Karl in the film, you almost view him much more as like a puppy kind of character, like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and new to the world, and so he's just excited to be out there, and he doesn't know anything about what's out there in the world. But you also get a lot more character development in the film. He gets a lot more screen time. But since it's a musical and there's constant dancing and singing and everything, and it's just not possible to have him on stage that much and get as many of the lines as he needs out, they have to make him almost more of a comedic kind of intelligent character. So you get that kind of banter in the musical between him and Amos, and that both of them are kind of set opposed to each other, but build this mutual respect between each other in that very quick moment.
Yeah, it is very quick.
Yeah.
All right. So I have to ask this question. What is your favorite part of the show for you? And also, how do you think audiences will react to the show? What will their experience be when coming to see it?
I mean, probably my favorite part of the show, this one isn't one that I'm involved in now, would probably have to be Red, White, and True, just because I love town. But probably the part that I'm included in would probably have to be just the cave scene between myself and Edward moving into On the Road. Because On the Road is a very climactic kind of build kind of song that I really enjoy that. And it's also, you get a lot of good banter between Edward and I in the cave scene, so I really enjoy doing that one and being able to just bounce off each other like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, last question. So, tell me something that only Karl knows, and this can be anything that you come up with.
He wasn't born a giant, actually. He was born a normal person, and he hit a really big growth spurt when he was about in junior high, grew like an inch a month, and then that continued all the way through junior high until he was just really, really tall. So yeah, it was a gradual thing. But when he was younger, he was actually a very good runner.
Well, yeah. I can see that with you walking on the stilts. You seem
yeah.
so it's so easy for you to
So
do.
agile.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Ben, and we'll see you later.
All right.